and welcome to round 3 of the League of Europe Porsche Cup. Sorry for the slight delay there, we were sorting out some issues and the stream wasn't showing up on the League of Europe channel, but now it is, we should be ready to go. We've had a couple already drop out from qualifying due to the connection issue. Pagan and Fun Anywhere were stuck in the pits. But for now, we've got, I believe 13 drivers on the grid, 14 actually, 13 including Pagan, who has disappeared to be able to get out on track after Fun Anywhere left. So, suggesting that there's a connection issue between those two drivers. So, Campbell currently leads the top of the standings. There's no Kyle. Yes, there is. He's 50. He's 13. Going to set lap. Yeah. My apologies. So Campbell, of course, I believe, championship leader. A few points ahead of Palmer, who's currently down in 6th. Of course, these drivers only set 1 or 2 laps. The quickest times will really be set at the end of the session on low fuel and fresh tyres, because, of course, there is no way to determine. No way to choose your own fuel level before you go out on track. Everyone starts on a full tank of fuel, so it's all about fuel burning and then just having a perfect run at the very end. So let's ride on board with Campbell as he comes into the pits, so let's not ride on board with him. Anyone on a flyer? Stajar's Stan is on a out lap. Nico's just starting a lap, but his tyres are pretty worn now. He'll probably be coming in this lap for a new set. James Head in 5th, Wildest Monk in 6th, Palmer down in 7th at the moment on soft tyres. J. Cole in 8th, Palmer's just coming to the pits actually, he'll be one to account for in a minute. J. Cole is 8th, Noble is 9th, Ties is 10th, 11th is Whiteout, 12th is V5, 13th is Kyle, 14th is Pagan after that slow start with the connection. So as you should see, he's got the most fuel out of anyone since he was delayed at the start due to that connection issue. So we'll go over to Palmer in a minute once he begins his lap, as he's someone we're sure is starting a lap. Anyone on fresh tyres? On an out lap, Noble's on an out lap. Pagan's just set a lap. Kyle looks to be on a lap, so we'll follow on board with him. Is he going to get held up by this car on the inside? No, he ducks out of the way. Really difficult track. This is probably one of the most difficult real-life circuits that's on GT Sport. Every corner, you think you can put the throttle down, but then there's more corner. It's really, you have to have a lot of patience around here when you can put the throttle down, since every corner has pretty much a tightening radius by the end of it. So on board with car now, coming to the final few corners. Really, this circuit, I can't describe to you how frustrating it is to drive. You can feel really good, and then it's incredibly slow, your lap time. So is he going to jump up the order? Crosses the line, and he only goes 13th, so a pretty poor lap from him to begin with. Not exactly what he'll be hoping for the rest of the session. Campbell still leading the way for the moment on another out lap now, so he's starting a lap. Let's ride on board with this entire lap. So onto the main straight after that tight S section. It means that there's not really much overtaking. Well, this is your best overtaking chance, but this track is one that is very hard to overtake at. Coming up to turn 1, right-hander braking just after the 100-metre board, clipping the curb on the inside and running out as wide as you can without touching the grass. Coming up to the next corner, which is a really, so many technical corners in this one, but this is the first of them. Really fast right-hander going into a really fast left-hander, and then into an incredibly slow right-hander. But through the double left-hander now, and then we'll have to slow down sufficiently for this really tight right-hander down to first gear. Getting a late apex for the next corner, which is a small right-hander going into a really fast left. So lifting off slightly, no braking, clipping the apex late on, getting his best exit as he can up until the hairpin. Another good overtaking opportunity here. I don't want to say good as good as it can be for Autopolis. It's pretty hard everywhere. He's currently purple by just less than the 10th. Clipping the apex late there, getting a good exit down the hill. Really fast corner now. This is a really good corner, one of the only good corners on the track. Really fast, swooping right-hander, clipping the apex. Really carrying as much momentum as you can. Then here's where the tightening radiuses begin. right-hander, then a left, and then a double right. Coming up to this section now, slowing down, waiting, and power down now. Cutting this curb, little bit of braking for this corner, a little bit of lift. Run out wide to the right-hand side, then swing back left for these two right-handers, or this double right-hander before the left-hander onto the final straight. Straight lining the car as quickly as he can. Coming up to the line, will he improve on this lap? Will he go any faster? It looks to make an improvement of 4/10. So really making improvement in that last sector. He's gone up to 4/10 ahead of the next guy, who is Palmer. But I did say it would be one to watch. He's got second locked down at the moment. Stan in third, Dan in fourth, TJ in fifth, Nico sixth, James seventh, Wildest Monk eighth, J. Cole 9th, Noble 10th, Pagan 11th, Whiteout 12th, and Kyle 13th. The Whiteout boys 2 seconds off the 1.5, 2 seconds off the pace at the moment. Not where they want to be in their constructors and of course drivers' championship hopes. Campbell leading the way, as seems to be the huge round here really. Campbell obviously an extremely quick driver. The rest of them have to be on their really good day to be able to beat him, or Campbell has to have a really bad day, it seems. So running on board with Stan now, coming up to the final couple of corners. Let's get his view from his bumper. It looks like he's coming into the pits. Yes, he is. Anyone else? Dan comes into the pits. Ties, is he going to pit? He's coming up to the last sector now. He's just behind one of the Whiteout cars. Not quite sure who that is. Another SLM driver like Palmer. Getting a late apex, straight lining as quickly as he can, but I feel like he's going to the pits. Yes, he is. Lots of people coming into the pits now. We've only got 3.5 minutes left. QVR Nico looks to be on a lap at the moment. Is he going to be improving on this lap? He is, up by about half a tenth. Coming down the hill to the fast right-hander before the tightening radiuses. Swooping right-hander, takes that pretty nicely, runs out wide to the left, takes a late apex on the right-hander, doesn't drift out too wide, back for the left-hander, taking the first apex of the first right-hander and then sweeping round, power down, straight lining that corner as much as you can, but if you ride over that curve too much you will be launched. Swing out to the right before coming back to the left. Doesn't go as far to the left as I would have expected. Goes quite wide at the penultimate corner there, then gets a good exit onto the straight. Will he improve or will he come into the pits? He looks like he's staying out. Will he make an improvement on his lap? He does, up by 2/10, up into 6th position. Good lap from the QVR driver there. Palmer still in second. He's on fresh tyres halfway around the lap. Let's have a look at Campbell. Also fresh tyres halfway round. We'll probably get 1 or 2 more laps in after this outlap, but he is saving fuel. He's revving the engine as much as he can, trying not to get in anyone's way while he does that. V5 currently the slowest, behind the two Whiteout boys who are still in a shock 12th and 13th position. Not great for them at the moment. Pagan 11th, Noble 10th, J. Cole, a strong showing from him at the moment in 9th. James Head lower than he'd want to be in 7th, but of course he's just come onto the fresh tyres and he's setting his lap now. So let's ride with James Head. Let's follow him around the side, and he goes onto the grass. Hopefully he won't lose so much time there. Hopefully he didn't lose the back end and ruin the lap before it's even begun. He's already about a third, less than a quarter of a tenth down, so pretty even first sector. Going up to this really tight right-hander, down to first gear, taking the apex in the middle of the corner. Running up to this fast right-hander. The next sector line is before the hairpin, so will he make an improvement in this sector? Let's jump on board, onto the bumper, onto the bonnet. Let's have a look. Getting a good exit up the hill. Will he improve on this sector or will he still be down? He is improving. He's up by 2/10. At the moment, that would keep him in the same position. He is 3/10 behind Nico. Coming down to this right-hander now. He needs to make it count now. He's not going to make any improvements if it stays like this. He's actually really vulnerable to the Wildest Monk and J. Cole behind him. The midfield battle so closely packed at the moment. The top guys are really making it difficult for everyone else. Coming up to the final sector now. Right-hander, left-hander, left-hander again. Coming up under the bridge. Running out wide before coming left. swinging back right. Will he be able to improve on that lap? He comes up to the line now. He should be improving, but how much? Will it jump him up any positions? He's got another lap after this. He does jump up. He goes into fourth position at the moment, but other drivers still have laps. He's got one more lap to do, but I guess that's it for him unless he can really improve on this first sector. Let's have a look how much he was down. Stan goes into third with a 1:44.7. I want to focus back. He's purple, so he did lose quite a lot of time on that first lap. Campbell now, he's got the purple first few sectors. He's 4/10 clear of Palmer at the moment. Will he be able to extend that advantage on this lap? This is his final lap. He's got no option now. He's got to really make it count here. Although he has secured pole position for the time being, will he be able to retain it? As a very loud motorbike goes past my house. Got my windows open because it is boiling in here. So, coming up to the final couple of corners now, he goes out wide, takes the apex late, straight lines it across the curb towards the finishing line. Will he improve? Palmer takes provisional pole. Will Campbell improve? Yes, he does, by less than 1/10 of a second. That was very close. Palmer couldn't do anything more there. Really good lap. Unfortunately, it wasn't to be for him today, but second position, that's not bad. The shocks of the session, though, the two ART cars back towards the back of the grid, 12th and 13th out of 14 drivers. Will V5 be able to improve and knock them to the bottom of the timing sheets? Let's have a look on board, coming up to the final few corners. He's in the last sector, he's on the medium tyres, which is why he's been struggling. I think he's the only qualifier on the mediums. Obviously, for the strategy, I don't think he's improving on this lap. No, it's an out lap. He's not going to make an improvement. He's going to be last. So, your qualifying order is Campbell, Palmer, Stan, Monk, James Head, Dan, Ties, Nico, J. Cole, Noble, Parga, Whiteout, Kyle, V5. So, coming up to the race, I believe we're trialling standing starts now to have a closer grid. Oh no, of course we had one last week as well, my bad. We had one last week and it went alright. Of course it was Monza with a very tight turn one. There was a little bit of contact, but less than you'd probably expect. So the drivers flashing their lights for the start of the race. Will we see a move from Palmer into turn one to take the lead from Campbell? Of course, Palmer did win last week, but he got a penalty for not serving his time penalty. He got a 5-second penalty for not serving his game-given time penalty on the allocated straight. So Stan gets a good start into second position, already ahead of already ahead of Palmer, who runs out wide after it looks to be a little bit of contact. James Head looking up the inside. Campbell still has the lead, and Stan makes a bit of contact with him and gets into the lead. Let's have a look at the replay in a moment. Let's try and it's done the glitch where I can't change camera angles, but we'll watch from here. Chaos going into here at the moment. Well, it's not chaos, but lots and lots of cars. The ART boys look to have already got right up there. Stan, bit of contact between Stan and Campbell there coming into this right-hander. James Head is in the lead from, I believe, what was 5th position, so he's made a great start. Campbell and Palmer have both dropped 2 positions down to 3rd and 4th. James Head really needs to capitalise on this now. Can I change cameras? Yes, I can. Perfect. So, Ties is in 5th, Monk in 6th, Dan in 7th, Nico in 8th, Noble 10th, Noble 9th, sorry. Whiteout up into 10th, Pagan 11th, J. Cole 12th, V5 13th, and Kyle is actually rounding out the back of the field in 14th position. So, James Head leading ahead of Stan. Let's have a look at that replay. I can't change camera, unfortunately. Let's try and go back. Can we still look at that replay? Yes, we can. So he gets a good start off the line. Bit of contact with Palmer. And then, ooh, doesn't anticipate his braking there. That's unfortunate, but he got to lay it in the hands of Stan there. That was his fault. And then you see James Head looks to get ahead, pun intended, into this section. So let's go back to the action now. Campbell in third, Stan is in second, Palmer still in fourth. Noble in eighth, Nico's down to ninth, got a terrible start. Whiteout in 10th, championship rival to Campbell, doing really poorly so far. He's made up a few positions in the race, but his qualifying was not where he'd want to be. Kyle back up into 12th after dropping down to last. B5, of course, on the medium tyres, the slowest tyres available, of course. James still in first, maintaining that 4/10 gap to stand behind him. Campbell is in third and will really, really want to be catching up to the rest of them now, but it's, everyone's tyres are wearing out pretty quickly. Palmer in fourth, and there's a bit of a gap down to his teammate. Ties in fifth, Monk in sixth, just behind. Dan in seventh, Noble 8th, Nico 9th, and Whiteout rounds out the top 10. So an interesting start there from the drive. There's a little bit of chaos, to be honest, at the start. Of course, probably down to that the introduction of standing starts. But that was Stan's fault, I would say, at turn one, and he should have really given the position back. He had every opportunity to. He gained that position by effectively punting Campbell off. Of course, I'm not stewards. The stewards will come to the correct outcome, of course. But that's just my opinion as a bystander, as a viewer. So Palmer dropping back a little bit from Campbell, as that looks like Stan is making a move round the outside of James Head into turn one. Will he make it stick? He goes for the switchback. No, doesn't. He tries to keep it around the outside. James Head not leaving him much space, leaving him out to dry. They're still side by side. Who will come out ahead into the second sector? This has allowed Campbell to catch up. Stan keeping it around the outside, but has to back off as the circuit tightens. Coming up, and that has really allowed Campbell and Palmer to properly catch up to the back of him now. Campbell will really be fuming after that start. He'll want to be really challenging Stan to get that position back. If I was Stan, I'd probably give back the position now and try and avoid a penalty, because I assume that he'll probably get a penalty for that unless he gives the position back. James Head running a bit wide at the hairpin there, and he loses the back end slightly going down the hill. That will give Stan a chance to decrease that gap between them, but there's no chance of overtaking there. He's way too far back. Looks like Campbell's struggling for tyres a little bit. His tyres are the worst out of these top four. Well, of course, none of them are really bad. It's only been a couple, 2.5 laps, but that could be worrying for Campbell, considering he is normally very good on his race management. He has got the most fuel, however, along with Palmer, so they've obviously been saving a little bit, of course, helped by the slipstream, reducing the drag, reducing the amount of airflow going over the car, of course, making you run more efficiently. So Stan right on the back of James again. Will he brake too late? Brakes just right. Clips the apex nicely. He's going to get a good exit out of this corner. James runs slightly wide. Will that allow Stan to get past? It looks like it has. Stan has got his nose ahead going into turn two, and he makes the move before the corner. Stan into the lead. James Head down into second after a pretty costly mistake from him there. Let's have a look from his perspective. Obviously looking behind him at Stan, runs out into the grass, bad exit, and Stan manages to make that move. Of course, still allowing Campbell to decrease that gap. So Campbell only 2/10 behind James now. Campbell will really need to get past him quickly if he wants to catch up to Stan, because Stan, I believe, is probably the quicker out of James and himself. But James now looking up the inside. Stan goes deep into the hairpin. Watching from Campbell's perspective, Stan will at least should get a good exit out of that corner, which he does. But a almost costly mistake from there, as James Head was right up the inside, and it really tightens up the battle for the lead. Palmer still in fourth, and a big gap now to Ties in fifth, who's defending like mad from the Wildest Monk. Let's have a look at the battles lower down the field. There's a train of about 4, 5, 6, about 5 cars all battling for P5 at the moment. Let's have a look from the Wildest Monk. He's right on the back of Ties now. Will he make a move onto the final, in the final sector or into the first corner. He's got better tyres than him, his tyre management's been much better, he's got the same amount of fuel pretty much. He's going to try and get the exit here and try and make a move into turn 1. Will he be able to get past him? Trying to come up it now. My apologies, coming up into turn 1 now. Looks to the outside line, he brakes deep, tries to stick around the outside, and he's done it. But that's going to give Tyres the better exit as he goes slightly onto the grass. Who is going to stay ahead? Coming into turn 2. Tyres right on the inside, only half a tenth between the two. Tyres sticking up on the inside, and there's contact. Well, Monk thrown into the gravel there. It looks like he probably could have given more space, but we'll have a look in the replay. Let's have a look. He doesn't really give him space there, which is what allows him to get past, and then he gets a bad exit out of the corner, which allows Tyres to try and squeeze up the inside. Tyres goes deep. Yeah, and it looks like Wilders Monk just turns in on him. For me, that will be a racing incident. Both cars gave each other space. If anyone's at fault, it would really be Wilders Monk, since he didn't give enough space. Well, he did give enough space, but he sort of just turned in on Tyres. So the battle for the lead now. Stan, like I predicted, has been able to pull away as James is defending like mad from Campbell. Campbell now looking up the inside, doesn't get the move done there. Will he get a move onto the straight? He's up under the bridge now. Runs out runs out wide to the right hander, wide to the left hand side. Oh, my voice. I don't even know what I'm saying at this point. Palmer still right in the mix as well. Whose tyres are the best? It now looks like James's are the worst. And Campbell has recovered from what seemed to be a shaky start with his tyres. He's recovered to have what seems to be the best tyres out of anyone at the top. Oh, so Campbell looking round the outside of James. I've completely missed that there, and he's got that move done. Great move from him, and James has spun. Let's get a look on the replay. Hopefully we haven't missed that move for the lead, or for the second position. Looks like James got a bad exit. Campbell round the outside. Drifting round the corner. That's a great shot. And then James turns in. Bit of contact, and he runs out wide. So Campbell back up into second, but 1.8 seconds behind Stan, of course, who took him out of the lead at turn 1 with a questionable move, a bit of contact. Palmer now, the clever thing to do would be to save fuel and let Campbell drag him up to Stan. Of course, Stan recently promoted from Division 2, so in paper Campbell should be quicker, but on tarmac it might be a different story. So our race leader at the moment, Stan, of course, got ahead in questionable circumstances, like I said. May get a penalty after the race, but for now we'll just focus on the on-track racing. 10 minutes in, quarter of the way into the race, and he is in the lead by 1.4 seconds, but QVR Campbell is really reeling him in now. He's caught up half a second in the space of half a lap, basically. So, lots of drivers pitting now. Whiteout, who got up into 6th actually, I didn't actually notice that, my apologies. He's got up into 6th from near the back of the grid. He's refilled a bit, he's put on the medium tyres, so that is now his tyre requirement done. Will the leaders come in to pit this lap? Stan pulling away from Campbell a little bit in this lap so far, but then that gap seems to be fluctuating between 1.3 and 1.6 seconds. Campbell has now been able to pull away from Palmer slightly. Now he's not attacking a driver ahead, he can just focus on catching up to Stan. Tyres all looking pretty worn at the moment. I assume they probably pit sooner rather than later on these soft tyres, get onto the mediums. As we've got a comment that I didn't realise. So I got a few comments supporting J. Cole, who is up in 6th at the moment after a pit stop, so he's doing pretty well. For the some support for the SLM guys, Ties, who's down in 5th, and Palmer, who's up in 3rd, and some support for Wildest Monk, who's currently in 8th, battling with QVR Nico. So let's focus on the top. Has that gap gone down? It's still 1.4 seconds. Maybe Campbell has been saving fuel and hopes to jump in the pit stop as he comes into the pits really squirrely on entry there. Let's see if he refuels and changes tyres. Of course, he will be changing tyres on those worn softs. How much fuel is he going to put in? None. He goes just for the pit stop. Stan stays out. Nope, Stan also pitted, as Pagan has left the room. Not sure why that would be, but Stan still leading from Campbell, who's pulled out half a second in that stop. Stan now on the softs as well, so he hasn't completed his tyre qualification, tyre requirement, sorry, and Campbell now has, so Campbell technically doesn't have to pit again, but of course they all will. Dan is up into 3rd, Palmer is back down in 4th, but I believe he may have refueled slightly. Yes, he may have done. So, Ties defending like mad from J. Cole now. We've got a bit of a battle for 5th place on our hands here. J. Cole on the softer tyres. Let's ride on board. Will he be able to make a move on this lap? He's really all over the back of Ties. Of course, he's on the softer tyres. He should be probably about a second a lap quicker. Once we get the move done before his tyres wear off, will he make a move into the hairpin, this left-hander? Goes up the inside. Ties looking for the switchback, trying to get the better X down the hill, but he loses the back end, and that should promote J. Cole into 5th position for the time being, as Nico runs pretty wide there. A bit of a squirrely moment for him. The Whiteout boys still, the ART guys still in 9th and 10th. Let's see their strategies. Kyler's gone onto the softs and Whiteout onto the mediums. James Head down 11th, V5 in 12th, and Noble rounding out the back of the grid in 13th. So Stan is extending his lead at the moment, but QVR Campbell will probably be fuel saving, making his tyres last. He's got a lot longer on his mediums. These mediums have a lot longer life than Stan's softs, but this has also allowed Dan to really catch up to the back of him now. He's only half a second behind, sorry. So this currently is the quickest, the closest battle we have on track at the moment. Of course, his tyres will wear off quicker because he pitted sooner and is on the fresher soft. So if he wants to get past, he's got to do it sooner rather than later, because Campbell's tyres will be coming more into his hands as this stint goes on. Sharon Palmer, I presume that is Palmer's mum, Ethan Palmer's mum, supporting him, saying go Palmer. He's currently in 4th position. I'll turn my stream off, as you probably can hear that on my mic. So hello Sharon and everyone else watching the stream. Palmer's currently in 4th on the medium tyres, so his tyres will be slower than the rest of the guys apart from Campbell. They're on pretty identical strategies, although Palmer has already refueled and Campbell has not, so Campbell relying on his fuel saving skills, which seem to be pretty good from what I've seen of him in the first few rounds of the season. Of course, winning in Barcelona, and he was really robbed of a victory as Dan comes into the bits. He was really robbed of a victory in Monza, leading on the final lap, freshest tyres, and unfortunately he was taken out by Whiteout, who simply braked too late into turn 1, and he did get a penalty for it, and Campbell, I believe, finished 2nd overall. But yeah, unfortunate for Campbell there, but he's still leading the championship, and I believe he is probably the favourite for the championship, considering the ART guys are really throwing away valuable points here. This is by far the worst I've seen them. By far the worst performance I've seen from them. Stan now has a 4.5 second lead, but he's really pushing. He's got a bit less fuel, but of course his tyres will last a lot less than Campbell's. Palmer in third, Monk in fourth. As there's a battle here between Tyres and J. Cole still. As I predicted, no, it's not Tyres, it's J. Cole and Dan, who's just come out in front of J. Cole. But of course, Dan will be on the fresher tyres. Is he on mediums? No, he's on brand new, fresh soft, so he'll be one of the quickest guys on track at the moment. Nico looking up the inside of Kyle. He's on fresher, less worn mediums, so their tyres should be pretty even. If not, Nico should have a slight advantage over Kyle at the moment. Kyle gets a really poor exit up the hill now. This could be a chance for Nico. He thinks better of it. It's a pretty difficult place to overtake coming into, I'll say it again, these tightening radiuses of corners. Getting really close now. He's all over the back of him, but they're also both catching up to Tyres, who's on worn mediums. Coming under the bridge now into the final few corners. Nico all over Kyle now. He wants to make a move as quickly as he possibly can. Try and catch up to Tyres just ahead. He's going to get a good exit out of the straight. He's got a much better exit than Kyle. Will he be able to stick it up the inside or maybe around the outside of turn one? J. Cole pulls into the pits. Stan, Campbell and Palmer still your podium sitters. Will QVR Nico make a move into turn one? Doesn't look like he's going to. Maybe focusing on getting the better exit. He looks like he will. He's going to get the switch back as Kyle gets a poor exit. Let's have a look off board. Will Nico be able to get that move done into turn two? Bit of argy-bargy there between the two drivers. A little bit of contact. Nico looks up the inside, makes a move. Bit of contact between the two there. Door-to-door racing here, but both cars keeping it relatively clean. No one flying off into the grass. Nico be getting incredibly frustrated. Good defensive driving at the moment from Kyle. Will Nico, keep asking rhetorical questions, Nico really wanting to make a move on this lap. And he gets round the outside as it looks like Kyle had a poor exit. Let's go back and have a look. So Kyle struggling on those softs now. Coming into this left-hander. He goes wide. Yeah, goes wide, loses the exit and then runs out into the grass just to finish it off. And he hits the wall for good measure. Ouch. Really unfortunate for Kyle there, as he's been overtaken by Whiteout. Sorry, not Whiteout. James Head as well. And he's got damage, but I believe damage is on light, as his damage has disappeared. So Stan now has a 6.5 second gap. I'm not sure what Campbell's going to do here. He doesn't have that much more fuel than Stan. Stan's tyres are actually lasting pretty well. They've only got the same amount of degradation as Campbell's. The same with Palmer. But Palmer has got the most fuel out of anyone, so he'll be hoping to catch up in the next pit stop, which I presume will be coming in about 5 minutes or so. And then a straight sprint for the last 15. I'm going to take a quick water break. So back to the racing now. Campbell now 7 seconds behind Stan. Is he saving fuel? His fuel still isn't that much more than the driver in front of him. I'm not sure, like I said earlier, what his plan is at the moment. Dan in 4th, setting a personal best. Monk in 5th, setting 2 seconds off his personal best. Tyres on those warm mediums coming into the pits now. It looks like, yes, he is. And that allows James Head and Whiteout and Nico to pull past him. So V5 up into 10s on fresh softs. Pressure tyres out in the middle, and he'll be one to watch now, of course, on an alternate strategy, so everyone else starting on the medium tyres. Tyres comes out in 11th position, just ahead of Kyle, pardon me, and Noble. So Kyle currently running in last position. He's come into the pits a lap before. He's on fresh mediums, probably planning to go to the end now. Is what only thing he can do now after getting that damage earlier on. Stan now leads by 7.5 seconds. A pretty dominant performance from him so far. Campbell and Palmer still separated by around 5 seconds. Dan pushing to catch up to Palmer now. This will be interesting. Dan's a bit of a wild card here. I reckon he could be in shout for a podium position at the end of the race. So, any other battles close on? James Head is just behind Nico. They're on pretty equal ties. James is slightly worse, as we'll ride on board with him now. As it looks like Nico makes a bit of a mistake there, goes pretty wide for that corner. Loses about a tenth, but then gains it back as he got a better exit from running wide. James now 2.5 seconds off his personal best on those worn medium tyres. Stan now 8.5 seconds ahead. Really great drive from him so far. But of course will be under investigation from the stewards for the start of that race, where he took out, well not took out, but sort of forced his way past Campbell. Only half a second off his personal best, really making these warm mediums work, warm softs work, sorry. And Campbell at the moment has no answer for him. He's pulling away from Palmer, who still has the most fuel out of anyone in this top 3 battle. Let's go back to Dan, who's really caught up to the back of Palmer now on his pressure softs. Will we see a move for Dan up into the podium positions? He's got a bit less fuel than Palmer, so he may lose it again at the pit stops. Oh, as he really... Great save from him there. Almost loses it. Of course, these rear-engine Porsches are pretty hard to control once you lose the back end, so he did very well to save it there, and he's still right on the back of Palmer. Only half a second between them now. Palmer also losing the back end there. Let's stay on board with Dan. Coming up to the straight, will he be able to make a move going into turn 1? He's going to get a better exit onto the straight. He's all over him now. So he's in the slipstream. He pulls out of the slipstream as he goes into the pits, and he cuts the pit entry line. That could be seen in an unfavourable light by the stewards. As of course you will get a 5-second penalty for cutting the pit exit line. I'm not sure if the same rules applies for the pit entry. So, Dan pitting. He didn't refuel though, so I'd assume he probably will be pitting again for a smash and dash at the end. That could be the wrong call from him there. Gap still staying the same between Palmer and between Campbell and Stan. So, will we see the top 3 pit anytime soon? I believe it would have to be in the next few laps for them to be able to make it to the end of the race. So we've got a bit of a train forming here. But behind Nico, let's have a look and see who is on the fresher tyres. Stan pulls into the pits on 8% fuel. Campbell also comes into the pits now. This is where it's going to get interesting. Will Campbell catch up for the final stint of the race? As we'll drop back to this train behind Nico. all on pretty even tyres. V5 in that battle as well. Like I said, one to watch out for on those fresher soft tyres. So Palmer stays out, Stan still in second. Where does Campbell come out? He pulls out of the pits. And it looks like he gained a couple of seconds in the pit stop, but not too much. Now Stan, this is where it gets properly interesting. Stan is on the medium tyres and Campbell is on the softs. Dan is on the softs as well, but he'll have to be pitting pretty soon. I'm guessing he was just going for a splash and dash. No real need to change tyres, it seems. So, Dan, currently the fastest driver on the track. It would be handy if he wasn't there, so then we could see the gap between Campbell and Stan. Palmer leads the race. Of course, he will have to pit this lap, or maybe next lap, or maybe the lap after that. He will have to pit again, I'm sure of it. He hasn't got much fuel left. So, Palmer probably will come in this lap, but let's wait and see. Will he make his pit stop onto the soft tyres for the end of the race and have the freshest? Stan has really caught up in that final sector now, as Palmer indeed does pull into the pits. So, Stan leads the race ahead of Dan, and Campbell back up into third. If I could get the camera to focus on him, I apparently can't. There we go. So, Campbell only 6 seconds behind Stan now, so we really want to be pushing to catch up in the last 10 minutes of the race. Only about 6 or 7 laps to go now. I'd probably say 6. So, Palmer is 10 seconds behind Campbell, so I would guess he's probably out of the race for the lead now, but he's definitely within a shout of a podium position, unless Dan throws a spanner in the works there. So Dan must be pitting this lap. He's got barely any fuel left. So the interesting thing will be to see if he changes tyres or not, because I believe that will be the best chance of him retaining that podium position if he doesn't change his tyres and just has a refuel, because the pit stops, it doesn't really account for how much time you spend in the pit lane and just how long your pit stop is. So you can lose about 3 to 5 seconds in a pit stop depending on how much, whether you change tyres and if you refuel or not. So let's go on board with Dan as he pulls into the pits. Let's see if that gap changes. Campbell really looks to be catching up to Stan now, as we'll see the gap in a second. Dan comes into the pits. Is he changing tyres? He is changing tyres. That's interesting. So that will cost him quite a bit of time in the pit stop. He does refuel as well. Refueling to the end of the lap. Let's go back to the top guys. The guys at the front of the field. Only 4.7 seconds now between Campbell and Stan. Stan, of course, will have to defend his lead towards the end of the race. He's losing about 1.5 seconds a lap to Campbell on his fresher softs. Palmer dropping back from Campbell, but his main threat now will be Dan, since he's on the medium tyres and Dan is on the soft tyres. No, Dan is also on the medium tyres, so it's a straight fight between these two, only a 2-second gap, and it's also a straight fight between first and second. So the podium positions are all up in the air at the moment. We have no idea who's going to finish on the podium or in what order. But I would bank on Campbell winning this race, to be honest. I believe it's his to lose, really, although technically it is Stan's to lose since he's in the lead. But Campbell has the advantage at the moment in terms of strategy, as there's a yellow flag. Can we have a look to see if someone's gone off? There's a close battle between Whiteout and J. Cole. And it looks to be Kyle that spun let's have a look if we can catch what happened there. Looks like he just went off at the fast swooping right-hander downhill. And then spins again on entry. That is unfortunate for him. Overall, a pretty poor race from him today. The Whiteout and Kyle, the AIT drivers, having a pretty poor showing. Overall, for both of them, the gap now between Stan and Campbell is only 3.5 seconds. Palmer in third, Dan in fourth, and Monk in... at that position. I believe I may have been on mute for a moment there. I will have to double check that. So it seems I did accidentally mute my mic slightly there, but what I was just mentioning was that V5, if he can pull this off, has done a great strategy going from last up into 6th position, going up 9 or so places. Sorry, 8 places or so, up into 6th position from 14th on the grid. So, Stan, defending from Campbell. Campbell's tyres will be wearing off now, so it could... it could still be advantage Stan as Campbell's tyres are wearing off at a pretty rapid rate of knots. Stan's tyres, he's been consistent through this race. His tyres have been very good. Of course, he made his softs last as much as Campbell's mediums, which Campbell has had no real answer for until now. But has he left it too late? Is there too big a gap between the two drivers for Stan to take advantage? Let's have a look. There's only a 2/10 gap now for third position. Dan right on the back of Palmer. Let's ride on board into the final sector. He's going to get a good exit out of this corner if he can put the throttle down at just the right time. He does. Now only a 1/10.5 separates the drivers. Will he be able to make a move into turn 1? He goes to the outside, the left-hand side of the track for the outside line. Palmer stays defensive. Only half a tenth between them now. Dan looks around the outside. And he's made it stick. Oh no, he hasn't. He's gone wide onto the grass. Palmer losing the back end there slightly. It looked like to be a bit of contact. As Dan has now got ahead. It looked like Palmer may have given that position back. Let's have a quick look. Yeah, a bit of contact between the two drivers there. Yeah. Palmer giving that position back to avoid getting a penalty. Great sportsmanship from him there. Definitely the right decision to do that. He should avoid a penalty now, as Dan is up into third place. Now Palmer will be really fighting to catch up to him now. He's got to make a move soon. Only 4.5 minutes left. 4.5 minutes left. 3 laps or so. But it looks like Dan, on his slightly fresher tyres, will be able to pull away. So Campbell only 2.5 seconds behind Stan now. He's still making progress, but not as much as he would like. He's got to make 2.5 seconds up in 3 or maybe 4, should be 3 I think, laps. And of course his tyres will be getting worse by the second, whereas Stan's will be getting, of course, worse as well, but these tyres have a lot longer life than the softs. So it's definitely back to advantage Stan, sorry. Confusing with 2 rhyming names at the top of the field. Dan pulling away slightly from Palmer now. It looks like Palmer's main concern will be the fastest Monk behind him. But got a 2.5 second gap there. If he keeps it sensible, doesn't make any mistakes, he should be able to maintain that 4th position. So, Let's run through the current order with only 2 laps to go after this one. Stan leads the race by 2.5 seconds. Behind him Campbell on the softer tyres, but those tyres are wearing out. Dan is up into 3rd, a great race from him so far if he can keep this going. Palmer in 4th, Monk in 5th, V5, driver of the day for me, it's got to be. But a beautiful strategy up into 6th at the moment if he can maintain that. He's got to do a bit of fuel saving, he hasn't got much left. James Head is 7th after that spin early on. As I mentioned the spin and one occurs, QBR Nico spins into the wall, gets some damage. He's going to lose a few positions now. He dropped into 11 out of the points. Let's have a look and see what happened there. Looks to get a late apex on the hairpin. Runs onto the grass. And he's a passenger at that point. Unfortunate from him, but driver mistake there. So J. Cole right behind Whiteout on fresher, less worn medium tyres. This will be interesting. Will he be able to make a move? Only 6 tenths between them. Let's just have a check on Campbell and Stan. Only 1.9 seconds now, but only 2 laps remaining of this race. Palmer still in 4th, Monk in 5th, V5 in 6th. But he's on very low fuel. Will he be able to keep this? He may run out of fuel before the end of the race. Whiteout ahead of J. Cole. Let's have a ride on board with him now. He gets a bit of a late, runs a little bit wide at turn 1. He'll lose a bit of time there as he has. He's lost about 3 tenths in one corner alone. Will he be able to make that up throughout the rest of the lap? He's still gone his personal best, so he's obviously still pretty fast. So really pushing to catch up with Whiteout now. He's only got 2 laps to make a move, including this one, of course. And Tyres isn't far behind on soft tyres. This will be interesting. It'll be a good battle for 8th position towards the end of the race. The rest of the field pretty spread out. Gap now only a second and a half, 1 lap remaining. Can Campbell do anything to catch up with Stan? Dan is in 3rd. Caught up a bit to Campbell, but of course a 15-second gap is never going to go down without a mistake from either driver. Palmer in 4th, Monk in 5th, and V5 in 6th. He'll have to be really saving fuel now. He's got 1 lap left, and James Head has brought the gap down to 2 seconds. Stan will probably, V5 will be running in one of the fuel-saving modes to try and retain a good result as he can. Got 10 viewers now. Thank you everyone for watching. We're going to the final lap now. Only 1.6 seconds behind Campbell and Stan, but it looks like, barring any mistakes from either driver, that Stan has got this in the bag. Touch wood, no commentator's curse here, please. Dan in 3rd, Palmer in 4th. Closest battle at the moment is still J. Cole on the back of Whiteout on the final lap now. They've just made it. Tyres can't make a position up. He just misses the cut-off point for the final lap. J. Cole right on the back of Whiteout now. Let's ride on board. I believe that's all over for Campbell. It looks like I have to accept 2nd place. So we'll ride on board with J. Cole on the back of Whiteout. Coming up to the turn 2. He's 3 tenths up on his personal best. He's right at the back of him now. He'll really want to make a move now up into 8th position. Another couple of points for his championship. As Whiteout runs a bit wide going up to the right-hander. J. Cole's going to get a better exit into this really fast section here. Whiteout again lagging towards the end of the race. It seems to be a common issue. He's pretty okay for the first part, and then he lags towards at the end as there's a bit of contact there between the 2 drivers. J. Cole right on the back of him, and he runs out onto the grass. He's going to lose a bit of time there. That could have given Whiteout the lifeline for 8th position. James Head still 1.9 seconds behind V5, who is saving fuel like a madman at the moment. Still in 6th position. J. Cole 7 tenths behind Whiteout. The closest battle we've currently got on track. Let's double check. Yep. But I believe that's it. Stan wins the race. Campbell in 2nd, only 9 tenths between them. So that could swing into Campbell's favour for the end of the race after penalties are applied, if the stewards judge that Stan should get one. It looks like Whiteout has been handed a lifeline by J. Cole's mistake on that lap. Provided there are no mistakes here from the ART driver, he should have secured P8. V5, my driver of the day, to be honest. Really great drive from last up to 6th. James Head in 7th. Whiteout comes across the line, only half a second in front of J. Cole in 9th. Tyres rounds out the top 10. Nico, Noble and Kyle are your final finishers. So a victory for Stan there. Good drive from him, but of course a controversial one with that contact at the start of the race. Let's invite the podium sitters to the party, if that is possible. So if you give me a moment while I invite the podium sitters to the party. I have Campbell as a friend. So we've invited Stan and Campbell. Let's try and invite Dan as well. I should have Dan as a friend. I do. Let's invite him as well. So we've invited the three podium sitters. Campbell has joined us now. We'll just wait to see if anyone else joins before talking to the second place driver. So Campbell's joined. We'll just wait a second before talking to him to see if the other two podium sitters join. Okay, then doesn't seem to be joining at the moment, so let's talk to Campbell. What were your thoughts on that race?
That was pretty fun. The start was a little bit questionable. I get hit a bit, but I suppose that's going to happen how close the grid is going into that into turn one like that. But the rest of the race, I was mistake free pretty much. I didn't really have any major moments. Had to push all the way in that final stint. Unfortunately, couldn't get the win, but fair play to Starja. I mean, he's come up from D2 and well, clearly shown he's got pace to be here.
Yeah, that is true. Although it was a bit of a dodgy start, it seemed to me that Stan sort of pushed you out of the way at the start, so there could be a penalty for him there. But disregarding that for now, the rest of the race, what seemed to me to be the main difference was that Stan really made his soft tyres last while you were on the mediums, and you had pretty much the same wear, even though you were on the harder tyres.
Yeah, I had to push quite a lot because I knew if that gap got too big, that final stint, I wouldn't be able to catch him because I know my tyre wear was quite bad around that track. So I knew push as hard as I can in that middle stint, kill out the mediums tyres because they don't need to go too long, and hopefully catch me at the end, which wasn't able to do. But you know, that's just how the race was. You win some, you lose some. I'm still happy regardless with P2 though. Helps out my lead in the standings.
Yes, very helpful of course when the two Apex Racing Team boys finished pretty far down the order. I believe it was 8th and last in the end. So really helping your championship even with the P2. Solid result. Unfortunately Stan and Dan haven't joined the party, so I'm going to talk to them. So congratulations on P2 Campbell, congratulations to Stan and Dan on the other two podium positions. And we'll see you next week. Do you know what track it is? Campbell?
I will check the now for you. Let me check the calendar. We have Austria, Red Bull Ring.
Perfect. So we'll see you next week for Austria. Thank you for watching. See you next week.